Well, hey, it's Jim Martell with Vested Interest Partners Group at Keller Williams First Atlanta, and this is your monthly market update for September 2021. All right, folks, I just wanted to share my screen here with you and get into a few slides so that we could talk about what is going on in the Atlanta and North Georgia marketplace, as well as nationally in the real estate market in general, and look at some facts and figures so that we have the real story and not just the story that the news media wants to tell us. Because as you know, when you have a void of information, as Mark Hackett says, emotion tends to drive decision making, and we want to make good, solid, logical decisions, not decisions that are based wholly on emotion. So starting down that path, let's talk about year-over-year price appreciation and what's been going on there. When you look back at January 2020 versus 2021, we're seeing a 10% year-over-year appreciation, and that rate of appreciation has been accelerating every month up through May. It's accelerated up to 15.4% on a year-over-year basis from May 2021 to 2020 to 2021. And it kind of begs the question, is there a housing bubble, right? That's a big hot topic a lot of folks want to talk about today, and I want to address that. And I want to point out, first off, that, back when the housing bubble hit, really between 05 and 08, and just the market was just absolutely devastated. You can look at what the experts are saying. If you don't want to listen to me, listen to the chief economist of CoreLogic, which is a big information provider, data provider for the real estate market. And he notes that there are marked differences in today's run-up in prices compared to 2005, which was a bubble fueled by risky loans and lenient underwriting. Today, loans with high-risk features are absent, and mortgage underwriting is prudent. We used to say back then in 05, 06, you could get a loan to buy a house if you could fog a mirror, meaning if you could breathe, basically, or if you have a heartbeat, you could qualify for a loan. And once we really started unpeeling that onion, we could actually see that there were probably some people that weren't even able to fog a mirror, and loans were made in their name to purchase properties. There was that much kind of corruption going on, but that's just not the case today. In fact, when we look at the credit scores, which is a major indicator of whether somebody can repay a loan or not, a credit score below 620 indicates more or less that there are credit problems with that person, and they may actually be 30 days or later on one of their credit reporting bills as it is. And so back in 2006, over $376 billion worth of mortgage originations were made to people with credit scores of less than 620, whereas in 2020, that number was less than 20% of that, less than 1/5 of that, and at only 74 billion. So there's way better credit risk being taken, if you will, on mortgage loans today versus back in the bubble that happened back in 05, 08. Another quote, this is from Harvard University's Joint Center of Housing Studies, and they note that conditions today are quite different than in the early 2000s, particularly in terms of credit availability. The current climb in house prices instead reflects strong demand amid tight supply, helped along by record low interest rates, which you can see pretty much everywhere. Housing bubble. Let's talk about mortgage debt and affordability for a second. Okay, back in 2007, fourth quarter, you can see that the household debt service ratio for mortgages as a percentage of disposable personal income was at 7.21% back when that housing bubble popped. Okay, today it's less than half of that, and it's been declining ever since, as you can see. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that, but we're just nowhere close to bubble range, and that's kind of my whole point here. Mark Fleming, the chief economist of First American, says looking back at the bubble years, house prices exceeded house buying power in 2006, but today house buying power is nearly twice as high as the median sale price nationally. It may sound hard to believe, but housing is actually undervalued in most markets. And the gap between that house buying power and sale prices indicate that there's actually room for further house price growth in the months to come, which is great news for those of you who are buying right now, because you'll see that that value increase as soon as you buy. And for those of you who are on the fence, well, it's time to get off the fence, kind of one way or the other. Lock in a rental rate if you're not going to go ahead and buy. Mortgage rates are just amazing right now, so jump on it before they start rising. Speaking of those mortgage rates, housing affordability, of course, is affected big time by those mortgage rates. And if you take a look at the Housing Affordability Index from 1990 to today, the number that the National Association of Realtors comes up with, right now it's kind of middle of the road, tending toward the high range. It's actually more affordable in 2021 than it was in 2020. And even in 2019. But we see some activity going on here. You know, years when distressed properties dominated the market, the affordability was a real issue. And we are seeing some numbers between 16 and 21 that are, you know, kind of in that range almost. And so do those things correlate? Well, there could be some correlation, but we simply haven't seen it yet. What we are seeing really is just supply versus demand. Affordability does continue to decrease. The scale has gone down from a high of 186 in January, down getting into the red, into the 151 range for May of 2021. So is there a housing bubble? Well, absolutely not. Like I said, it's a supply and demand issue. And I go to Freddie Mac's chief economist here. The main driver of housing shortfall has been the long-term decline in the construction of single-family homes. Let's take a look at another interesting graph here. Single-family housing units completed between 1970 and 2001, really. The average annual units completed over these last 50 years, we're seeing in 2002, 3, 4, and 5, these were 4 consecutive years of record-setting number of units. Each year was higher than the last. 2006, it was a little bit of a skipped record there. And then in 2007, we began 13 consecutive years of housing units completed below that 50-year average. 13 consecutive years, that's a fourth, roughly, of the last 50 years. Major problem. Like, there's just nowhere near enough supply to satisfy the demand, and that's what we're seeing. It really is that simple. Of course, simple doesn't sell newspapers, and it doesn't sell website clicks and so forth and so on. So you're going to continue to see the sensational headlines that will come at you from your various news sources if you continue to tune into them. Feel free to tune in here anytime, my video blog, my written blog, and of course my emails that come to you. I would love to keep being your real estate economist of choice, if you will. And of course you can call, text, or email if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Anytime, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to jump into your inbox, jump onto your computer screen and have a conversation. Holler at me and let's talk. Thanks again. See you. Bye.